Why do you consume science fiction? Or better said, somebody says, hey, let's go watch that new science fiction movie. What are you expecting from that story? See, in a movie like a romantic comedy, you know what to expect. Two people meet, they fall in love, there's trouble, and somehow they make it work. Or maybe not, and they learn something. In a horror, you know that it's about fear, there's some kind of a monster, there are bad decisions, people die. What do science fiction stories have in common? I mean, robots? Spaceships? But are those stories? You look at a movie like The Matrix, it's about rebellion, it's about freeing your mind, it's about identity, right? Then you look at a movie like Alien, and it's about survival. It's about escaping from the monster on the ship. Then you look at another movie, a gem of a movie like The Iron Giant. And what's that about? It's a coming of age story, right? It's about deciding your own fate. It asks the question, what if a gun didn't want to kill? Sure, they all have robots. Most of them have aliens, spaceships. But you know what? The robots aren't the point. Science fiction is great to have as a section in bookstores or in streaming recommendations because it's a good way to categorize the kind of experience that you want. But when people ask, what's your favorite genre? A lot of people say science fiction. I respectfully disagree, at least as far as calling it a genre. You can have a love story in space. You can have a war story on an alien planet. You can have a comedy with robots. And now I can hear some people saying, you're right, it's not a genre, it's a setting. But I think it's also more than a setting. I think it's something much more interesting. I think science fiction is a playground that allows us to explore deeper issues. And you can't do that with any story. Now, I've said robots aren't the point. So why robots, aliens, and spaceships? Well, to explain that, I want you to think about children's stories for a minute. Why do so many children's stories have animals in them? Why are there so many protagonists and antagonists always animals? Well, think about it. When a fox lies or a wolf cheats, a kid who's watching that story who maybe once or twice lied to mom and dad to get out of trouble won't feel personally attacked, but can still benefit from the message of that story. Science fiction kind of does the same thing. It allows us to see humanity from the outside. I don't know how many of you are old enough to remember the TV show Sliders, but if you haven't seen it, it's about a scientist who invents a wormhole machine and can travel between alternate realities. There's an accident, he and his friends are stranded, they can't find their way home. And each episode is a different version of Earth. It's lost in space, but on Earth. Now, there is an episode where they arrived to a version of Earth that was a utopia. Everything was perfect. Everything was free. Everything was comfortable. Cars were free. There was no greed. And there was this lottery where you could sign up and win money really easily. But all too late, our characters discover that the cost of your ticket, if you won, was your life. This society had a periodic voluntary sacrifice that allowed them to free up resources for everyone else. And without that kind of wild, exaggerated setting, we wouldn't have been able to see something like the value of life versus material needs. An alternate universe to explore an issue like this, you can only do it in sci-fi. You see, science fiction exaggerates reality. It cranks society up to 100, and it becomes a mirror so that we can finally see what we're doing. That's what it's about. Robots and spaceships, they're just the icing on the cake. The delicious icing, but icing. You come for the robots and spaceships, I certainly do, but you stay for the often mind-bending ideas that only science fiction can give you. Now, when I started writing my indie manga Salvador, I realized real quick that it was going to be impossible to tell the story without the lens of science fiction. Now, mind you, it has nothing to do with the fact that I want to do it through the lens of science fiction, because I'm a huge science fiction nerd, but the fact stands that it's impossible to tell this story without that lens. Because I'm examining the idea of innocence versus our worst side as humanity. It's a robot character examining humanity from the outside, and the story asks a very simple but very uncomfortable question. If something completely innocent and defenseless entered our world and was faced with our worst side, had to suffer through it, was shaped by it, and then it turned out to be more powerful than us, and it saw us, judged us through that lens, would we survive that judgment? Now, the manga is in production. The global story is all but solidified. I'm writing chapters. But you know what? Art is expensive, and it takes a long time to make. So I'm also writing a prose version, chapter by chapter. Part of it is already available. You can read chapter 1 right now in the link below. And if you like it, you can sign up to the Nexus Substack. It's the place where stories are forged. You'll join me on the journey to making this story a reality. Now, you don't need a Substack account to sign up. Don't worry about that. You just drop your email. And every time I drop a new chapter, a new piece of lore, a new piece of art, or any kind of news about the production, you'll be the first to know. So sign up, join the Nexus, and tell me, in the comments, do you think science fiction is a genre, a setting, or something else? And if you feel like sharing, what's your favorite science fiction story? I'll see you there.